That makes sense. Or is it take your best?
All right, there you go. You can have it.
Ooh, wow. Taxable benefit though, isn't it?
That's right. Sounds finance.
Right.
So it takes the average of.
Okay. You nervous? I don't know. What does that mean?
Absolutely.
It's another meeting.
Got lots of fires in the iron.
Yeah,
stall.
okay. Like,
Uh,
and that's kind of what worries me too.
Hey, Dave. Do you know who Patrick's brother is? He's the premier of DC. Like, you know, when you talk about there's, yeah. There's like black sheep in families. He's the
There you
black
go.
sheep in the family. He didn't quite make the cut of the other ones. I don't know what's going on here. Apparently he's traveling internationally doing deals. Oh, his brother's on TV. Yeah. Well, and he's the consumer protection guy.
Well, that's right. He wants.
What do you say? I would be the one
Well,
that people talk about, whether for good or bad. I don't know.
So yeah, you want to have more time to yourself, but not.
Not that I know.
Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah, exactly. Shopping money.
I know.
That doesn't look bad, eh?
That looks really nice.
Oof. Good water.
Who's screen is that? That's Stephanie.
Yeah.
We're from here. He went out, he was out east. Also out east. And then he went into Falmouth. He's at the
Sorry, we're just having a technical difficulty with one of our trustees. I'm trying to sort that out. Okay, good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Hopefully we can get this sorted out, but I'm going to carry on. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Begin with asking if there are any memorials. Trustee Doherty, Masters.
Right, thank you. I would like to offer an intention in the memory of Jerry Brienza. Jerry, who some of you may know, devoted his life to Catholic education here at Waterloo Catholic. He served as a board-level religion consultant and was a longtime religion teacher and later religion department head at Resurrection Catholic Secondary School. Teaching was truly his vocation, and he is fondly remembered by both staff and students for his gentle presence, wisdom, compassion, and sense of humor. Jerry lived his faith well beyond the classroom, serving as a volunteer chaplain at Grand River Hospital and as a founding member of Blessed Sacrament Parish, where he facilitated the RCIA program for over 25 years. Jerry passed away peacefully during the Christmas holiday break. We remember in prayer his wife, Olinda, a former teacher with our board, and his children, Angela, Michael, and Jerry.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing any memorials then. We will move to Trustee Karen.
Those we just passed the feast of the baptism of our Lord. I'm going to have a prayer connected to that. So join me in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Eternal Father, who at the baptism of Jesus revealed him to be your Son, anointing him with the Holy Spirit, grant that we may be faithful to our call as children of God, listening to you, guided by your Spirit to fulfill our unique and definite purpose. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son.
Thank you very much. Moving to the territorial acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is the land traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We also acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today. Now, moving to the approval of the agenda, I have one small amendment to make. We would like to move item 10.1, which is the OCSTA resolutions, move that up in the agenda to put it after 5.3 so that the superintendents will be here to hear the discussion around the OCSTA resolutions. So with that amendment, can I have a mover of the agenda? Trustee Stanley and Trustee Guerin. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to declaration of pecuniary interest. Do we have any from the current meeting or previous public or in-camera meeting? Okay, seeing none. Moving to item, actually, we don't have anything under 1.5 item. So moving to item 3.1.1, committee of the whole minutes from November 10th. Can I get a mover of that motion to approve those minutes? Trustee Francis and Trustee Sikora. Do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to 5.1, leadership strategy update.
Good evening. Through you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start by thanking our Board of Trustees, Director Verano, our student trustees, as well as the senior team for the very kind and welcoming past 5 months. I really do appreciate all the support and leadership. I'm also very pleased and honored to be sharing our board's leadership strategy report for the 2025-2026 school year. So in alignment with our board's new multi-year strategic plan, when we're looking at our priority of learning, we're focusing on transforming learning through leadership and staff support and development. our priority of serving, celebrating, and promoting our distinct Catholic identity, developing faith and live gospel values, strengthen connections between home, school, and parish, and connect faith formation to learning. And finally, with belonging, working towards creating safe, welcoming environments that reflect our diversity, promote a sense of mattering and dignity, fostering equitable, inclusive, and barrier-free learning and work environments, and finally, engaging families and building community partnerships. When we look at our WCDSB's leadership development strategy, we have an overall goal where we are looking to develop leaders that are supporting our multi-year strategic plan as well as our student achievement plan, or our SAP. Specifically, we're looking at instructional and spiritual opportunities for our staff, providing effectiveness and succession planning to ensure that we have leaders moving into the future. Goal number 2, supporting student learning through shepherd, student, and steward leadership. And goal number 3, system leadership, supporting lifelong learning, mentorship, and coaching, which we know is very, very important when it comes to leadership. In the board report, you would have seen there are a number of events, programs, and opportunities that exist for staff. Part of the work that's happening with our leadership strategy is to ensure that everything that we are doing aligns with the Ontario Catholic Leadership Framework, and each of these opportunities makes that connection. This is not an exhaustive list of all of the events that we run to support our leadership program, but it does highlight a few that are that show the role that we are playing in leadership development at all levels of our organization, specifically supporting our Ontario Catholic Leadership Framework. When considering the formal Catholic system level leadership, you will see at the center is the Ontario Catholic Leadership Framework and the pillars that support that, as well as the PLRs, the personal leadership resources. Around the outside, these are our formal leadership programs that are absolutely critical for leadership development. So our Catholic Leadership Program, which is a 3-part program that we offer to all staff in the board. Our Leadership Identification Program that supports those that are then in the discernment process of whether to pursue formal leadership programming. VP and waiting and training, those who are actually in those positions and waiting to be placed at a school. And finally, our Leadership Induction Program. We look at a model of exploration and then identification, and then finally, when you're in the position, how we can ensure success. We are very, very excited to share that our Catholic Leadership Program, our 3-part series, continues to grow. I'd like to highlight on the bottom line there, 2025-2026, we are now at 100 participants participating in our 3-part program, 39 in part 1, 22 in part 2, and 39 in part 3. So you'll see year over year, we continue to have growth and we continue to have people interested in participating in these sessions. This is a fortnight commitment for staff, anybody who is interested in participating. Once they complete part 1, they can move on to part 2 and then on to part 3. Each one of the parts of the program builds upon the skills and learning that's happening, working towards the end where we are asking, are you answering the call and is this right for you, and preparing individuals for that next step. Our Leadership Identification Program builds upon that pipeline that we're using through our Catholic Leadership Program into the next step of the Leadership Identification Program. This is a process where we are asking those candidates who have worked through the leadership program, are they going to answer the call to lead, and are they going to become a member of our leadership team in different areas? This is an information session where individuals will come and they will take part in learning around what the position is and what it entails. This year, coming up in a couple of weeks, on January 20th, we're going to be running our 2nd session. As part of this session, we are going to be having current vice principals that are new to the role to come in and answer some questions, as well as clarify what their position looks like, some of the challenges that they experience, as well as how they've been supported during the transition. We also take a look at the Ontario Catholic Leadership Framework, how this applies to the application process, what we are looking for in our leadership candidates as a system, what the process looks like when they actually apply, and participate in an interview through case study, presentation, and interviews, and portfolio development. And we have had, last session, we had over 20 people participating, and we are expecting a similar number this time. Our induction program for new administrators is another very, very important program, given the demands of this position as well as the significant learning curve. I'd also like to highlight on this slide years 23, 24, 24, 25, and our current year 25, 26. You'll see that the numbers for administrators that are either in year 1 or year 2 participating in this program also continue to grow. We know that through growth and through retirement, we're seeing new leaders coming into our schools, and it is absolutely essential to make sure that they are supported as part of this. We've taken a different approach this year for this program, where mentors are working with a small group of mentees. So most of the groups are 3 mentees and 1 mentor, strategically identified based on skills and approaches and where the growth can happen. And they are meeting in small groups once a month, but we're also meeting as large groups as well, facilitating conversations around mentorship, having those conversations for growth. And you'll see our elementary numbers for VP and principal, there's 39 participants and we have 4 in the secondary panel. Our vice principal in training and waiting. This is a program that we have for individuals who have been hired to a hiring pool, but have not been successfully placed into a position yet. So during this time, we continue to work with these individuals. Oftentimes, these would be leaders within a school community. They would be a delegation of authority when the administrator of the school is away. And we work with these groups to make sure that they are aware of WCDSB policies and procedures, as well as other logistical items which will help them when they are ready and placed into a position. For example, special education processes, support staff roles, investigations, teacher performance appraisals, and so forth. One of the most important parts of our leadership strategy has to do with the NTIP mentor coach and the NTIP process and support program that we have. Our NTIP mentor and coach, Hattie Campbell, provides supports for all of our new teachers that are part of this program. So to give you a sense of the numbers that she is working with, in elementary, we currently have 195 LTO positions and 63 permanent positions that are considered NTIP, so in first year of teaching. And in secondary, we have 64 LTOs and 23 permanent teachers, making a total of 345 individuals who are new to the teaching profession. Knowing that we have a changing landscape in education, the challenges that exist when transitioning, and as well as candidates that are coming directly from faculties of education directly into our classrooms, this program and the connection to a mentor is what ensures the success of these individual teachers. Supports offered include collaborative conversations, modeling instructional strategies, support planning, and then providing classroom management support as well. The mentorship is happening through a dedicated individual mentor, oftentimes at another school, sometimes within the same school, but somebody that that teacher can connect with. And NTIP liaison teachers, many schools have a teacher that is dedicated to the NTIP process and supporting, as well as the principal engaging as well. The focus on relationships in this is key, and the mentoring for mentors focused on foundational mentoring skills and providing feedback in order to provide improvement and strategies, as well as the role of the principal, are all very, very important parts of this. And finally, the work that we're doing within innovation and deep learning, focusing on deep learning, the support of the Catholic graduate expectations, and the overlap within transferable skills. So collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, innovation. And you'll see the overlap that exists between our Catholic graduate expectations and those transferable skills that the ministry identifies. We have many programs where teachers are coming and learning about opportunities. For example, robotics, for example, Mario Kart esports program, Minecraft. Teachers are learning about these opportunities and bringing those opportunities back to their schools. First Lego League would be another example. We really are supporting our board's mission, where as disciples of Christ, we educate and nurture hope in all learners to realize their full potential to transform God's world. Really, what our goal with our innovation and deep learning is to ensure that we are providing a commitment to preparing future-ready graduates who are rooted in faith, resiliency, and equipped to contribute to a changing world. The last item I'll mention is AI and the work that we're doing around AI as part of this group. During our November professional activity day, all of our staff, teaching staff, participated in a half day focused on AI and implementing AI strategies within classrooms. We know that, again, this is an ever evolving concept, and AI is transforming the way that we do things, and we continue to work as part of a ministry priority around professional learning for our staff. I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Just trustee Sikora?
Sure. Yeah, I'd noticed when you were talking about the number and the leadership, there were only 4 in the secondary panel. Considering now that we're opening an additional secondary school, and I'm just wondering, are we not getting the interest? Are we trying to encourage? And I guess also, can there be transition from elementary to secondary in PVP roles?
Great. Through you, Madam Chair. The program for that with the 4 secondary school, that is the program that we're running for the induction. So that's just based on the number of new people that have come in the last year or 2 as part of that program. So currently we do have a vice principal hiring pool that has individuals in it. They would be taking part in that in waiting and training program. Specifically, because we have fewer positions in secondary, that's why that number would be reflecting that. So those individuals would be in their first and or second year. And I believe it's 1 principal and 2 vice principals, and then the mentor is a principal as well. So that would make up the 4.
I guess second part of the question,
Sure.
Can there be transition from elementary to secondary for PVP roles?
So when we do our interviewing for administration, we do it in one event, but they're interviewing some and express an interest for secondary and elementary, some express an interest in elementary and some secondary. So that opportunity does exist depending on the qualifications and their skill set, what they were looking at doing moving forward. Thanks.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll just add one little point to that. The answer to that is they can move panels because there's fewer secondary schools, fewer administrators in secondary. Sometimes somebody might be interested in an administrator position, but it could take a while to get a secondary one. Being only 5 schools, those don't come up very often unless someone retires out. So sometimes we have secondary teachers who are in the pool, or even vice principals that decide they would like to go and be a principal in an elementary school. So depending on their qualifications, experience, and interest, there is an opportunity. We have opened that up a little bit where there's an opportunity to switch panels. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen and it is possible.
Trustee Doherty Masters?
Right, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It was very well done, and I'm glad to see so many opportunities at different levels for leadership. I just had a question about the mentors, the coaching and the mentors. We have a lot of new teachers that are requiring that opportunity. I'm just wondering, as the ministry kind of hints at longer practicums, if they're doing any changes to Teachers College, how well positioned are we to expand that mentor program? Like, obviously, we're going to need quite a few more teachers that would volunteer their time to be mentors or coaches. Is there a way that we're expanding that or looking for more teachers to be participating in that?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's a great question. And it's very encouraging to see the number of volunteers that we are experiencing with specific support of the NTIP program. even specifically around our NTIP program, we are offering a new opportunity where teachers are opening up their classrooms as a mentor teacher, and others can come in and observe different strategies. So even when we opened up that opportunity, there was lots of interest in that. So as part of our NTIP process through the ministry, we will continue to have those supports, and we have many, many people that are interested in sharing their experiences with new teachers coming in. And as you mentioned, it's absolutely critical for someone's success to have a mentor and someone they can connect with. So we do have many people that are interested, and we're very thankful for the time that they dedicate to the program.
And I would just add to that through you, Madam Chair, exactly what Pat has said. The NTIP program will need, if we do have a change in, teacher education policy and timeline, additional mentors. What we have been intentional about doing this year is ensuring that our teacher, NTIP teachers were brought into the board office in groups. So we'd had a kindergarten grouping, for example, where all of those new teachers had an opportunity to meet all of our program consultants as well as our NTIP lead. So they automatically had that one-to-one contact so that they would know who they could reach to in the board office. Additionally, as you said, we may need a lot more mentors, and we know that that is overwhelming for teachers sometimes to be all of that to someone else. So what we have strategically done as well is tapped and invited teachers to be NTIP leaders in the school. So it's those experienced teachers that have time and have the openness to invite people into their classroom. As Pat had said, wherein if we don't necessarily have 5 mentors in a school, we have that one person at the very least where we can have some continuity. So we've had to be creative for sure, but I do agree that we will need more.
Are there any other questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Moving on to 5.2 EQAO.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to welcome forward. We have our math coordinator, Petra Leduc, math consultant, Sarah Gonzalez Day, and our literacy consultants. We have Kim DeGasperis and Amy Healy. So they're going to share some of the achievement results for EQAO for 2024-25.
Hey. Sure. You hear me okay? Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Okay, I'm going to get us started with language achievement in elementary. Then we're going to move into language in secondary, and then we're going to pass it over for a math update across elementary and secondary as well. My name is Kim DeGasperis, and I'm responsible for kindergarten to grade 6. As we present this information, you're going to see some alignment to our new MYSP. So just be watching for that. You can see it in our report as well, which you have in front of you. And let's take a look at grade 3 primary reading and writing. So we can see from our spring of 2024-2025 results that 75% of our fully participating students are at or above provincial standard, and that's an increase of 2.3% from the previous year. And we're really excited to see that increase in writing. 65% of our fully participating students are at or above provincial standard, and that's an increase of 1.7%. Still excited to see those gains. In grade 6, in reading, we see that 84% of our fully participating students are at or above provincial. That's an increase, a significant increase of 3.3% from the previous year. And in writing, 82% of our students are at or above provincial standard, and that's an increase of 2.7%. It's nice to see that increase after we've got that slight decrease that we see in the previous years that we experienced here at Waterloo Catholic, as well as the province experienced. We have now experienced an increase in achievement, and the province has as well. So that feels hopeful and optimistic to us. When we look at the distribution of achievement in our DOT scores, you can kind of see what the achievement looks like across grade 3 and grade 6. So the top chart shows grade 3 and the bottom shows grade 6. And we like to look at this information because it really helps us to understand and know our learners from a system perspective. So if we're thinking about reading achievement in grade 3, we can see that 75% of our students are meeting or exceeding provincial standard. And then we can really break that down to understand what we're looking at, where we see that level 3, that's at provincial standard, we have a high concentration of students within the meeting provincial expectations. We see a nice little increase in that 4.1. That would be a group of students who are exceeding provincial standard. And that's a nice little piece. And it makes us wonder how we can continue to accelerate student learning when they are achieving at higher levels over time. And then when we look at the other end of that, we can see our students who are scoring between that 2.7 and 2.9 range. They are almost meeting provincial standard. And how can we continue to support these students with more precise, high impact instructional strategies to really get into more curriculum refinement to really nudge them along and move them into meeting the provincial standard. So that's how we read the distribution of scores. And then when we look at grade 6, reading, we see that we have done a great job at moving some of our students, right? Now we have 84% scoring at and above provincial standard. And we see even more students kind of landing in that level 4 component. And then we still have students in that 2.7 and 2.9, but you can see how those numbers start to shift a little bit. And now if we break down writing in a similar way, the top is grade 3, the bottom is grade 6. We really see where we would want to focus some of our curriculum professional development for educators. We have a real concentration of students in the early level 3 here. And we want to really target that. We have a real concentration of students in that 2.7 to 2.9 as well. And then when we compare that to our grade 6, now we have 82% of our students at or above. And we have a real high concentration in that early level 4, where we again consider what we're doing to accelerate student learning for students achieving at those higher levels. And then the number of students at the 2.7 to 2.9 starts to decline, which is a nice little piece, but still significant enough that we would need to be addressing that. In addition to student achievement, we also look at our confidence survey, which is part of our EQAO assessment. We are seeing a slight increase in all of these categories. So not only do we want students to be achieving in reading and writing, but we want them to feel like they're a good reader and they're a good writer across the grades. So we see a slight increase in these areas that range from 0.8 of a percentage to 2.4 of a percentage. And any increase is a celebration for us. So the next steps when we look at elementary education between grade 3 and grade 6 is to continue supporting with professional development opportunities. Last year in the spring, we ran a system PD for grade 3, 4, 5, and 6 educators where we really targeted writing. And you can see why in our percentages and our achievement results, right? So we really focused on writing, and we purchased them a resource by Larry Swartz, who is a professor at OISE, to continue the work in the classroom. We also continue to invest in resources to support educators, to support their students in the classroom. We're running System PD ongoing this year to support grade 3 and grade 6 educators with EQAO type tasks, and providing them with resources again to support the learning in their classroom, and that is ongoing, where we've had a significant number of educators participate in these PD sessions and providing really positive feedback. So we're really excited about the learning and collaboration that's happening there. And at this point, we're going to continue the conversation around language and literacy, where I pass it to Amy Healy. She's going to talk us through our OSSLT.
Thanks, Kim. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Healy. I support student achievement and literacy, grades 7 to 12. And I am thrilled to be here tonight to celebrate our outstanding first-time eligible results on the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test for the 2024-2025 academic school year. So as we can see, 92% of our first-time eligible students, so our grade 10 students, met or above provincial standard, according to the OSSLT. We are steadily seeing an increase over the last few years. And in fact, we saw a 5% increase from the previous year's results. And even more impressive, we are 7% above the provincial average for the OSSLT for first time eligible. For our previously eligible students, so these are students who had been previously unsuccessful on the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, we are seeing a little bit of an increase in our success with 57%. And so watching that steady increase and kind of designing some of those next steps that I'll go through to help further support some of our students who are struggling to get this literacy requirement for graduation. What is also, noted to be celebrated here is that we were actually, in fact, 6% above the provincial average with our previously eligible result. We do continue to monitor the confidence survey data that occurs at the end of the OSSLT. It is a very long 2.5-hour test. And so our students are provided with the option to complete a questionnaire at the end of the assessment. And so for our first time eligibles, we had a response rate was actually really quite high at 86.7%. And then for our previously eligible, we had a response rate of 77.5%. What we are seeing with our first time eligible students in our confidence areas of I can read easily, I can write easily, and I can critically analyze information and ideas from a variety of sources. We are remaining steady in terms of where our students are reporting their areas of confidence. We are seeing a slight decrease in our previously eligible confidence survey data, which is something to pay close attention to because we really do want to support our students in their love of literacy and their confidence in their reading, their love of reading, how they transfer that into their writing and of course in their critical analysis. So we do continue to monitor that and do appreciate it when our students do choose to complete that survey at the end of the test. In terms of next steps, based off of our outstanding results, there's a lot of things that are going to continue for Waterloo Catholic District School Board. One of our strategies, and it was a new strategy last year, was to look into completing the dual administration and capitalizing on our fall and spring administration opportunities. So all students had the opportunity to write the OSSLT in the fall. And then what this allowed us to do is those students who were unsuccessful, we were able to get that important data and then look into targeted literacy interventions. And this is something that we do really need to, commend the commitment of our student success teams, our literacy leads, our school improvement heads, and our educators at our secondary schools. Because through this important data, they were able to create these small groups to work with our students, closing those gaps to nudge them a little bit further. And that's where we saw a really nice increase with those students, getting that success test in that spring administration. We are going to continue sustaining our school-based student success supports. So all of our secondary schools all offer homework clubs, lunch and learns. We do targeted sessions for those students with individual education needs. So for example, we have ATEC representatives at each of our secondary schools who meet with our students one-to-one to work through Google Read and Write, which is an accommodation program that we utilize on the OSSLT. We also created last summer with a fantastic writing team of literacy leads from all of the secondary schools, a centralized OSSLT D2L support resource hub. And this was created that centering on kind of having a universal centralized hub for all students and families to access through the D2L platform. Educators also have the opportunity to access this. And what we did see was a nice transference of what we created here centrally, and individual schools also transported that to their own web pages as well as their own D2L pages to support the OSSLT. We also look at some of that important data that we get when we look at the results of our OSSLT. And what we are noticing is, trying to dive into some of our diverse learner needs. And so one of the things that we've been doing today in partnership with Barbara McCord, our student achievement consultant, supporting multilingual language learners, is that we brought together our grade 9 ENL 1W, so our grade 9 D stream teachers, as well as ESL teachers from all of our secondary schools, and looked at bridging some of our essential literacy skills that we definitely address in our ENL 1W. But noticing that a lot of our students in our ESL programming, when they go to write the OSSLT, they often do not progress from the ENL 1W, which is when we look at the OSSLT, it is an assessment of literacy skills at the end of grade 9. And so looking at bridging these programs, so we have a little bit more intentionality in our ESL programming to support what to expect on the e-assessment, and make sure a lot of those literacy skills are aligned. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Petra Leduc. I'm the board math lead for K to 12, and this is Sarah Gonzalez Day. She's our 7 to 12 math consultant. We're going to be sharing our math story with you through EQAO. This is just a recap of our data over time. You can see in our primary division, we have seen this slight sort of increase. Our juniors as well, with a bit of a blip in there last year. And our grade 9s are kind of looking like they're in a trend. We had a bit of a spike in 2024, which was last year, but we're kind of trending in the same way there.
And then like the literacy, we also looked at the confidence data, and we focused on the question, I'm good at math. And it kind of stays steady across the 4 years of data that we have, where in grade 3, it's hovering around the mid to low 60%. And then in grade 6, it drops to around 50%, and same in grade 9. And that's consistent with the province as well. So we've got both of them there side by side. So we stay pretty consistent and pretty close to where the province is with that confidence data.
So we wanted to sort of clarify just a point in terms of making sure we're all on the same page with what the provincial standard actually means. I feel like this is probably a good time to sort of have this conversation with this audience, in light of some things that you may see in the media, or, clickbait stories that talk about how we're failing our students in mathematics. The provincial standard means level 3. And if we were to use a letter grade that would equate to a B, or a range in percentages, which would be between 70 to 79%, it's not used to determine whether students are failing or passing. And I feel like maybe that's something that's not new to this audience, but I feel like sometimes conversations that I have with our broader community don't really understand that. And that's probably because of the narrative in the media around mathematics and EQAO. So we wanted to sort of start our conversation about what that provincial standard actually means. We do have students that are, the majority of our students that aren't reaching standard are in level 2, which means they're achieving a C between a 60 and a 69%. It doesn't mean that they're failing mathematics. And so we thought it would be important to sort of bring that to light, especially if, part of your position is to have a, conversation or relationship with the broader community in this, in our district, that's maybe a point that you can clarify for people that we're speaking to in our broader community as well. So reaching standard is defined in our DOT scores as a student that reaches an achievement beginning at 3.0 and upward. And we're going to talk a little bit about that.
And this is just a breakdown of how the levels that EQAO uses would transfer to either letter grades or percentage grades, which most people kind of understand more intuitively than a level 1, 2, 3, 4. So like Petra said, when we're looking at reaching provincial standard, that's like a 70% or above. And the ministry defines that as either having considerable effectiveness or a high degree of effectiveness. But we have lots of students, which we'll show you in a minute, that are sitting at that level 2 range, actually high level 2s. So they have some effectiveness and they're getting close to considerable effectiveness. And it, like Petra was saying, it doesn't mean that our students are failing math. In fact, in our board, we have 96% of our students that passed math last year, even though only 53% reached standard on EQAO, they're still passing math and getting their math credit.
So we're going to share with you too our DOT scores. We've kind of left off the level 1s over here so we can make it a little bit bigger. They're very small. So you can see our students in grade 3 in our primary division that are reaching level 3 or above is at 65%. However, you can also see that how close our students are. We have the majority of our level 2 sit between 2.7 and 2.9. So that's 13.7% combined. That translates to 244 students have missed one question in 2.9. One question. So I hope that sort of sheds a little bit of light in terms of what that achievement actually translates to. So this helps us in a lot of ways. I know Kim and Amy talked about this too. We look at those trends at schools where we've got a large majority of students that are achieving at 2.9. And that is, for us, translates to just changes in instruction. Could be that there's a gap in instruction for certain concepts. Could mean that it's low opportunity to answer more robust questions that are application or thinking questions. It could mean that they haven't had enough experience taking a digital test in mathematics. And we have created opportunities for teachers to come to additional PD to learn more about those things. I was just instructing one this before I came here, but in a at 5:30, where we had a group of teachers learning about digital test taking in mathematics. When we look at our juniors, it kind of is a similar story. We have, we're at that 53.5%, reaching standard and above. But then the majority of our students who aren't sit between 2.7 and 2.9, and a large majority at 2.9. They are right there. So that's a good news story, and also an increasingly frustrating story for us, because we know that's not ability, that's instruction, that's practice based, and so that helps us to support our educators in the system, and then continue to provide resources and supports for our teachers.
And the story's similar in grade 9. So same thing, 17.7% of our students are at that 2.7, 2.9. So 1 or 2 questions that if they would have got those correct would have bumped them into that group that would have been reaching provincial standard, which would take us from like 53% to over 70% of our kids reaching standard. So same idea, just focusing on the digital test taking skills, reading the questions, making sure, they're reading if they have to select 2 instead of 1, just like really small things. Like Petra said, it's not the ability's there. It's just like a small little bump that they need to get 1 or 2 more questions correct. That would move them into the level 3 and above.
Some things that we're continuing to do in our next steps, all grades, including grade 9, do an entry assessment through Knowledge Hook, which helps us pinpoint areas of specific need for that current year for those students in their current course. And we also do an exit assessment with them in the same way. We're running mock EQAO. This will be our third year. Third year? Yeah, third year. For grade 3 and grade 6 and grade 9. Our mock EQAO this year has been pushed back by 1 week. So for our grade 3 and 6s, we will be running it from February 26th to March 11th. And we're currently, doing after school PD to help our 3 and 6 teachers with that mock EQAO as well. And continue to support our math achievement for grade 3 and 6 through our map work and our math coaching. We've created teaching sprints, which are collections of lessons that follow our long range plans for grade 3 and 6 teachers in problem areas. So that in those areas that are hard to teach and hard to learn in mathematics. Like I said, that we've provided some opportunities for teachers to learn about digital test taking in math. And we're, really promoting and monitoring the use of our long range plans in grade 3 and 6 and all grades actually now from 1 to 8.
And then in grade 9, in addition to the things Petra said that we're doing, we do presentations on how to do an e-assessment, kind of getting the students used to the platform through the sample test, and then also giving them some strategies for answering multiple choice questions, because all the questions on each EQAO are either multiple choice or drag and drop, like there's no open response questions, so giving them some strategies. And then we have our grade 9 prep course, the GLS 10M, which is for students who maybe have some gaps in their math. They take it first semester to prepare them to take the de-streamed second semester. So we're still working on running that course. It's running in all 5 schools for the first time this year, and tracking the results of how the students that are in that course are doing in the grade 9 de-stream and on EQAO.
I should probably explain this icon in the middle of the short learning cycle is about Knowledge Hook. We had Knowledge Hook come and support all of our schools, all of our elementary and secondary schools with how to use that tool in terms of using the formative assessment piece for pre and post assessments in a short-term learning cycle. And we'll continue to reach out to them. They sent, battalion of people that come out. I was like, this is great. Wish they could come all the time. And so we're going to continue to sort of tap into their help as well around using data to help us be more specific about instruction. All right. So I don't know, Kim, did you want to talk about this a little bit? Or
just skip them.
Skip them? Okay. All right.
Thank you. Oh, are you finished or? Yeah, okay.
I think so.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Other questions from trustees? Trustee Cuff?
Thank you. I actually have 2 questions. So the first is regarding the OSSLT previously eligible. Looking at the results, it went from 86% in 2021 down to 52%, where it seems to be nicely hovering. So what happened?
What happened? So through you, Madam Chair, thank you for that question. So as indicated in the report, the year that you're referring to was the year that the e-assessment was first introduced. This is also off of the hands of the pandemic, where all students who had previously not written the OSSLT were all writing in their previously eligible year. So therefore, that year of data isn't comparable because we had so many students that were completing the graduating requirements. So it's not comparable to the other 3 years. So looking at the previous 3 years, that's more in alignment of what we were seeing in terms of student achievement prior when we were writing the test by hand. I hope that clarifies.
Yes. And my second question actually is for the math folks. When you were showing the charts, the for the 2, 3, and 4 for the grades 3, 6, and 9, and you were showing the levels 2, 3, and 4. And I couldn't help but notice for the literacy, yeah, so that peak for the literacy seems to be a little bit further along. Like in grade 3, it seems the same, but then in grade 6, it seems to have moved. Like I know literacy and math are not the exact same thing, but I can't help but look at this one and say grade 3, 6, and 9, the peak seems to be around the 2.9 and the 3.1, whereas we wanted to move to the 3.5, 3.7, preferably to actually get our math numbers up. So what's being done? Like, is this a curriculum issue? Like not enough stuff is being taught early enough in the year, or what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, we follow the provincial trend there as well. As you can see underneath is the provincial trend. It isn't, it is provincially and here in our district and our coterminous board as well, we see, you know, a drop from 3 to 6, and then we see our students that maybe weren't meeting standard in grade 6 meet standard in grade 9. So we do see this dip. It's a really good question. We're not really too sure exactly what that's attributed to, but we do have some theories. A theory is there is a lot of new curriculum that gets introduced in grades 4, 5, and 6. And 6 is the year that we test to see if they're proficient with it, more so than in the primary grades. So the bulk of curriculum happens in junior. And so that could be one reason. We don't know for sure. Another reason is that the types of questions we ask students, even so there's 3 types of questions that are produced in the archetype of a question for EQAO. One is just a straight knowledge question. One is an application question where they have to apply the math to a context. And one is a thinking question where in primary they have to do what's called sequential thinking questions. So first this happens, then this happens. Now you try to make sense of it with math. In grade 6, they do what's called simultaneous thinking questions, which means they have to hold a bunch of data at the same time and they don't know what sequence it comes in, and they have to read the context and then answer the question. And we see a big drop in our thinking category in terms of kids being able to answer those types of questions, which leads us to believe that there isn't enough opportunity or experiences happening with that type of thinking in mathematics.
Through you, Madam Chair, can I add something to the response? Thank you, Petra. We have been talking about our dot scores, and actually this is probably the first time in this report that we've ever highlighted this, because we're learning and understanding how close our students are to level 3. And our work this year in our professional learning is to identify which schools have the highest number of students that where there's practice, where we're seeing that like high level of 2.7, 2.9, we're going to be going into those schools and doing some PD. We want to work with the teachers, as it was mentioned, some of the capacity building with the educators, and more focused attention on the test taking and how they're teaching to get the kids closer. So we are right now this year getting more into what schools, where we're seeing this trend of that 2.7, 2.9 being really high. And we're going to be getting into the building a little bit more close with those educators in grade 6, particularly this year.
I know what you're saying though about the live distribution there. I would like it to look a little bit more symmetrical as well. I'm with you.
Trustee Weiler.
Thank you very much for the report. It was very informational and educational as always. Couple of comments. The first one is around the GLM course. Now that it's offered in all 5 schools, I'm wondering if how students, teachers get connected into that so that they can really take advantage of that in semester 1. Like I only see that opportunity growing I mean, it's fairly new, but if we can, get that maybe uptake or continuing to grow, I think that opportunity. I know the last couple of classes, and I always use my own daughter, she missed that opportunity, wasn't at her school. So, when she writes the EQAO, I'm not sure how she'll do. So I do think that's an opportunity that we have to kind of maximize. The second piece is if you were one of the 233, I'm not sure if that's the right number, students that were at 2.7 or 2.9, and you're not one of the priority schools, those are the kids I feel get lost. They're in a school that the school is overall performing well, but because they're not one of the priority schools, and I know funding only goes so far, but those are the students I feel are lost because, in grade 9, now 10, 11, 12, because they're in a school that overall is not a priority school, what happens to them? And that's the sort of challenge I see in a number of students that I know are at that place.
I can talk about the GLS course. So sorry that your daughter missed it. We are working on some new communication about it. So we're looking to hold a meeting with all the grade 8 teachers to make sure that they understand how it works and can talk to their students about it and recommend it for them, along with some communication like flyers that can go out at grade 8 night that can be given to all the grade 8 teachers that they can have during parent-teacher interviews to give to parents. So yeah, that's in the works and on the radar to try to make sure that everybody's aware of that. And I'll let Petra talk about the non-priority schools.
Yeah. Well, I think we're really trying to maximize our math lead teachers in those schools. So, I mean, we were talking about the leadership report just before this, and actually our math lead teachers are, I think there was a question about NTIP mentors, but often the mentor is the math lead teacher at the school too. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but we do have a lot of math lead teachers who are mentoring our newer teachers in mathematics, which is just a bonus. That's not part of their job, but they just do it because they're awesome. So, so that's kind of a nice piece that kind of fits with that portfolio as well. I think we're trying to really capitalize on those people. We're also trying to really boost the capacity of the administrators in the building to say, like, what is the number? What is that trending number of kids that is at 2.9? And, who would those kids be this year? And how do we keep monitoring those kids so that we can help them not be at 2.9? Because, you're right. We have the size of the team that we have. So, yeah.
Trustee Stanley?
My question is for Kimberly and Amy. I want to congratulate you, first of all, on the turnaround in reading and writing, because I was concerned last year. I don't like to see the numbers going down, but they're flipped now, and that's great news. It's great news for Waterloo Catholic, so congratulations. I'd like to focus though on the high-end achievers, the level 4s. Do you have any information, whether it's grade 3 or 6 or both, about where we are doing relative to the province for our highest level? I mean, our most talented and ambitious and keen students. Are we at provincial standard, above? Where are we there?
Yeah, I think I'd have to really do a deeper data dive to answer that question specifically, but just at a glance, we seem to have this high percentage in the early level 4.1, right? That we've never really seen, we haven't seen in a long time, right? Around that 10% kind of mark where we really do, that catches our eye, like I said, that kind of really leans into how are we accelerating the learning in that way. And we don't always see that high percentage within that sort of range, but, and we go at that through transferable skills, through critical literacy, critical thinking, right? To really go deeper into some of those higher level curriculum expectations. And then we look at how we can map that across curricularly, right? So if we are doing really well and achieving at these really high levels when we are teaching language in isolation, then we definitely want to push that towards higher level thinking in science, in social studies, in geography and history from an elementary perspective, in religion. Like you can just imagine those deep ideas that would sort of develop when we can go in that direction for as part of our plan to accelerate the learning. Does that help?
I think might want to see if we can get really good hard data on that, though. It would be helpful to know exactly where we stand, because I want to continue to encourage us to put a priority on making sure that our high-end students are the best and are internationally competitive. So we
Mhm.
need some data on that. So that's the only thing I would encourage, but thank you.
Okay, and
Yeah.
can I get back to you with that
Sure.
data perhaps? Does that sound good? Okay,
Sounds good,
now
thank you.
now I'm curious to do a deeper data dive in this area. Thanks for your question. Did you have anything to add, Amy?
I think when we're looking at, addressing, higher level achievers, it's really looking at kind of that true differentiated approach and making sure that we are supporting educators. We're aligning with the curriculum to offer those opportunities to really allow and enable our students to have the chance to dig deep into that critical thinking, into that critical literacy. And I really feel that you'll start to see like things will transfer over. Unfortunately, with OSSLT, like we don't get the granular data that we see here with the grade 3, 6, and grade 9. We're not broken down in terms of skills and strands, nor do we get to see dot scores. But it is absolutely something that we look into especially when we look at our like language programming across the grades.
Trustee Guerin.
Thank you, Chair. My question, I guess, is more at a 10,000-foot level, questions about the math EQO results, because I don't think that this is a Waterloo Catholic specific. It looks for the province wide. The gap between literacy scores and math scores is dramatic and seems to be trending in the wrong direction. Do we have sort of an idea as to why it's trending that way? Has curriculum changed? Like if we're even looking beyond like a 3-year range, if we're looking at a 20-year range, how are we? And is there any sort of big picture ideas of where you think our board could be investing to change the trend, I guess? So
Well, we did have new curriculum that was delivered in 2020 for grades 1 to 8, and then 2021 for grade 9. So so there is, we're still in some areas grandfathering that curriculum in. Our grade 6s that wrote last year were in grade 2 during the pandemic. So there were some gaps there. I'm not going to lie that maybe in the future won't be there, hopefully. So moving forward, we're maybe moving out of some of the residual sort of, things that we saw as a result of kids learning online. So yeah, and we are still really learning. There are some teachers that are, even though it's, our curriculum was deployed in 2020, but it was also deployed during a pandemic. And since then, we haven't been able to pull out teachers to do system-wide PD because of our supply teacher release issues. So all of the PD that we have done has been in schools during lunches and after school at staff meetings, and then offering opportunities either before or after school that teachers can opt in to take and learn more about the curriculum. So we're really depending on in a large way on the interest and the professionalism of teachers to do before and after school PD on their own. Hope that answers that somewhat.
it does. I think those are big. I think the the impact of the students being at home, like during the pandemic years is going to be, is profound. And when it's sort of when some foundational things are
Yeah.
not strongly developed, that will ripple over time.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a social emotional learning component to this as well. You know, math is one of those subjects where you have to persevere and you have to develop grit with. I don't know if we're still learning and developing that in a lot of our students since some of their education was compromised. So
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other question. Oh, one more. Okay.
This is, I guess, sort of a two-part question about sort of the priority schools. So I guess were their dot scores like 2.7, 2.9 primarily? Is that what got them into the B priority schools? And have they, presumably we've had some improvement, and has it sort of been a general shift up, or just sort of that small little cohort that was just in the twos?
yeah, so all of our priority schools actually saw increases this year. And in our priority schools that were identified for grade 6, some of those increases were very large, 13%, 21%. They were big increases where we're talking about 5%, though we take 5%. We'll take 2%. But yeah, we have seen so I'm not sure what the new math plan will look like for the next 3 years. We're at the end of the 3-year cycle for this math recovery plan. And it was, those schools were selected because they were in the bottom 20% of the province. They are no longer there. So I would not be surprised if they use the same metric. We won't be at the same schools in the next 3 years.
Yes, my question was really, were we seeing just a shift from the lower to the higher, or did it tend to be really across the board?
It was across the board.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Just really proud of our priority schools.
Okay. Not seeing any more questions from trustees. Thank you very much. Moving on now, we will, as per the amended agenda, we'll move to 10.1, draft OCSDA resolutions. And trustee Weiler has done a considerable amount of work on. Pardon? Oh, sorry. I've totally missed our literacy report. Sorry about that. 5.3, disregard everything I just said. Sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair, we will have Kim DeGasperis and Amy Healy remain at the front to lead us through our literacy strategy report.
Thank you very much. It's nice to continue the conversation around literacy, just to highlight all the great work that's been happening. You have the report in front of you. We're just going to go through some of the highlights. And as you can see, the ongoing alignment with our new MYSP and the alignment with our previous MYSP as well. As we go over some of the key areas. So if we look at our MYSP report in the area of learning specifically, we can see a variety of different data points, the early development instrument, report card data, EQAO data. From a system perspective, we lean into a variety of data points to really understand the strengths and next steps for our system. And we look at this data to understand the strengths and next steps for our schools and individual classrooms and for our students. So each data piece is one part of a larger story. And that really directs the system planning and resource purchasing that Amy and I engage in as we support language and literacy across the system. When we think about the area of transforming learning through leadership and staff support and development, we provide ongoing professional development for our educators, K to 12. As you know, the ministry implemented a new language curriculum in 2023, so we continue to support the implementation of this curriculum. in a variety of different ways. We started off with our new Strand B, which was foundational skills. And this year we've been going deeper into digital media literacy as part of our Strand A, as just two of the examples where we've been kind of engaging in some of the work and professional development. Sometimes this looks like system PD, PD days for educators. Sometimes it looks like staff meetings, division meetings, supporting at administrator meetings, supporting individual classrooms through modeled lessons. So it can look a variety of different ways. Not only do we provide professional development support, but we also have created a space on StaffNet for educators to go to. It serves as this one-stop shop. So when educators need resources, that is where they go to find everything they need. And we're creating and developing long-range plans so educators can kind of see, what does the learning look like for my grade across September through June? And we continue to purchase resources. I've just highlighted a couple here. Bug Club Morphology is for grade 2 to 6, and Know Your Code is 3 to 6. These are just two of the new resources that we have because we've shifted the way we do word study instruction, where we no longer do word study in isolation. We use contextualized learning. And these two resources support educators to be able to implement that sort of change in alignment with our 2023 language curriculum. When we look at continued investment in resources, we really also lean into the new MYSP area of belonging, where we think about the importance of creating safe and welcoming environments that reflect our diversity and promoting a sense of mattering and dignity in alignment with our Catholic social teachings across the curriculum. And I just want to highlight two resources here that we've purchased with this in mind. And we know that our communities are becoming increasingly more diverse. And we know that our policy documents call us to provide instruction, resources, assessment that reflects the lived experiences of our students. And we know that texts need to be relatable and inspiring for students. So with all of that in mind, I just want to highlight our book club kits that we've been investing in for grade 3 to 8 that has diverse representation, where we would really go deep in our language curriculum, but then we would be really intentional about accelerating that learning to get into critical literacy, critical thinking, and then explore those cross-curricular pieces in religion, in science and social studies, in geography and history. And great texts do that very easily for our educators. Another resource I want to highlight here is Know Your Code, which is pictured on the far right. And that is a resource we purchased last year to support gap closing for grades 3 through to grade 6, but it also supports accelerating the learning, which is kind of nice. It does both, and it's got this diverse representation. It's a collection of Canadian texts, nonfiction texts based on real Canadian stories, and students love it. Okay. So in addition to professional development, resource investment, we have also been focusing on early identification and early intervention provincially, and here at Waterloo Catholic, that is the key investment area in language and literacy instruction. One of the areas where we've been focusing this year is a new kindergarten emergent literacy intervention program. We have been implementing this at 12 of our most vulnerable schools, where we're finding that kindergarten students are coming into year 1 and they don't always have those emergent literacy skills that we used to see in our kindergarten students. And so we're finding that because we're seeing this gap, we need to really build these emergent literacy skills in our classrooms in a way that we haven't had to before. And something that our educators talk about at these 12 schools is that often students are not always being read to at home in a way that we used to see. They don't always come from families where there's a lot of back and forth, serve and return that really supports the rich oral language development. That supports emergent literacy skills as kids are coming into kindergarten. And because of that, we are being really intentional about using great books to build these emergent literacy skills in the classroom. So we're supporting our educators to be able to know how to do that in a way that they haven't had to do before. And it doesn't only mean that the educator is reading to the group of students. What's really nice is after the book has been read to the students get a chance to hold that book and practice turning the pages and practice talking about the books and playing with the story and retelling the story in really playful and fun ways, maybe writing about the story. And that's how we build those emergent literacy skills. So that's a nice initiative and intervention that we are using at 12 of our schools to really target those emergent skills. It's not an emergency. In the same vein of early identification and early intervention, we have 8 literacy special assignment teachers this year, and they are supporting early screening of our students in kindergarten to grade 2 so we can identify early who might be at risk for early reading difficulties. They support the screening process, and they also last year provided 2 cycles of intervention. They serviced almost 400 students in those cycles of intervention, and final results showed that 90% of those students made significant gains according to the reading screening, and 12% of those at the end of intervention were meeting benchmark. And what we're finding this year is that our literacy teachers are noticing that even more are meeting those benchmarks this year, which really just sort of shows with that explicit instruction and a little bit more time to practice, we're really still seeing those gains over time, which is kind of a nice little piece. We also have a repeated reading intervention that we implemented in November with really positive results, and we are currently scaling that to roll that out mid-grade 1 and above. And in a very short period of time, using this repeated reading approach, we're really seeing significant gains for students who are already reading fluently and for students who just need that extra practice. So that's a really promising next step that we're engaging in. We also have our Strong Start community partner. They've been in our schools for a number of years. Last year, they ran cycles at 32 of our schools. They supported 427 students, and 95% of those students showed considerable, outstanding, significant gains. And the link to their data is also embedded in that report. Again, we've purchased Know Your Code. I already talked about that one for gap closing 3 to 6, and we continue with updated assessment and tools to drive that instruction. That early identification and intervention is really important and key in an area that we've been investing in, but we don't stop there. So you can see across the grades that texts become more complex. We keep our eye on it, right? Like we want to make sure that as kids grow across the grades, they're continuing to read and comprehend and think critically about the texts that they're engaging in, and their writing becomes more and more complex over time, which is a nice little component. Okay, and at this point, Amy is going to talk us through some of the work that has been done in the 7 and 8 and move us into secondary.
Thank you, Kim. Last year, our focus of what we were sharing with you with the great work of Waterloo Catholic was around a lot of the resources we were using to support our students and to support the new language curriculum that was released in June 2023. One of the resources that I shared with you all last year was part of a supporting intermediate literacy project that in collaboration with student services as well as with our ML services, we have this project that is now expanded and in 72 grade 6, 7, and 8 classrooms across Waterloo Catholic District School Board. And it's leveraging the digital resource Lexia Power Up. Program Services has supported the purchase of over 1,600 licenses. And what we are seeing with this program is significant growth in skill development in the areas of word study, grammar, and comprehension. And so we are noticing the transformation of this program and have really leaned into leveraging the Lexia Power Up online and offline program to support literacy gains for all of our students in intermediate. As part of our continued commitment to this project, we began targeted professional development intensive series for all educators and administrators that were involved with the project this year. And this is also expanded to the entire system in utilizing and leveraging those offline resources. And this is to ensure that we are aligning with curriculum fidelity, that we are providing opportunities, engagement, and education for our educators as well in intervention opportunities. We're looking at the refinement of literacy skills in all of our students. And then, of course, what we're seeing is the acceleration of literacy skills across the system. Just in terms of a few of the photos that we have here, just wanted to show you the Supporting Intermediate Literacy Project in action. We've got a very engaged grade 7 and 8 group from St. John's Catholic Elementary School, as well as the St. Aloysius Supporting Intermediate Literacy team. We've got, you can see it's a full team effort here with all intermediate educators. We've got our multilingual language support teacher, our special education teachers, as well as our administrators. So it's truly a collaborative commitment to supporting intermediate literacy. We also wanted to lean into the impact that we are seeing in the classroom from the educator perspective. What's important to recognize with Lexia Power Up is that this is a resource that is not replacing classroom instruction. In fact, it's amplifying it. And we are getting this time and time again in the consistent feedback from our educators participating in the online project, but also with educators who have are accessing the offline component of the program. When we look at the graph, we wanted to share this with you because this is kind of a brief snapshot, and this was taken on January 8th, so just last week. And what happens is all of our students in the online component, they take a placement test, and this placement test was done at the end of September. And what you can see here is that it provides us real-time data in terms of where students are placing in those areas of word study, grammar, and comprehension. But what it also does is it shows us how our students continue to grow day by day. The data dashboard is updated daily. And so we are seeing significant movement in all of our online schools, where we're seeing students move through the zones of foundational, intermediate into advanced, which is at grade level for those literacy skills. In terms of educator feedback, I did want to share with you a very powerful piece that an educator from St. Joseph Catholic Elementary School shared with us. And he shared, "I can't stress enough how critical this program was for my students. I would not have covered a fraction of the content that this program offered my students. I love the lessons and activities it offered me and allowed me to have far more one-to-one conferences with students than traditional models." What Lexia Power Up has leveraged for us as a system is that we have got a resource that is not only truly differentiated for all of our students to meet their needs, it is also providing the resources and the tools for our educators to help support our students, whether this is in whole group instruction, small group instruction, or one-to-one. It is certainly something that we want to celebrate. When we look at transforming learning through leadership, staff support, and development, we do continue to support intermediate literacy by having targeted sessions for our grade 7 and 8 teachers specifically. In terms of my portfolio, I do follow grade 7 grades 7 to 12. And so there's a divide going between the elementary schools and the secondary schools. But in collaboration with many, many amazing individuals from program services, leaning in and listening to understand to our educators and their needs in intermediate, we've provided lots of professional development opportunities to support the development, adhering to curriculum fidelity and aligning the programming. So some of these things have included we've had professional development series for those in supporting intermediate literacy last year, and we're continuing those intensive sessions this year. We, on the March 31st PD Day of last year, had the exciting opportunity. We introduced a new resource under One Sun to really promote literacy from a cross-curricular context. But we offered a virtual workshop choice board of literacy opportunities for our grade 7 and 8 educators to engage in. So workshops that engaged in shifting the language program, looking at AI-powered writing strategy, creating AI-resistant assessment, leaning into supporting our students with individual education needs through literacy pathways, were all things that we offered through these virtual learning workshops. When we do look into the secondary, so we're switching into our 5, soon to be 6 secondary schools. Again, as Kim had shared, when we look at designing and creating next steps for supporting our educators, supporting our students, and supporting our programming, we do lean into a multitude of information and data points to help drive what we want to focus on as a system. As you saw in the report, we did see some really we were seeing great consistency within our English student achievement scores through grade 9 and grade 10. We're also seeing great consistency with the dramatic changes to our grade 9 English program. And so one of the data points there, we got to see that we went from 1 year of only grade 9 academic to moving into the D-streamed. And I really want to take a moment to celebrate that, even with massive curriculum changes in our grade 9 programming, we're still seeing great success with our students. In terms of leveling up our literacy for grades 9 and 12, seeing the success of what was occurring with our grades 7 and 8 in a lot of the intervention gap closing with literacy, we have moved Lexia Power Up into all grade 9 and 10 locally developed English programming. The hope here is that we are providing our teachers with the tools as well as our students with differentiated instruction to help close those gaps in the hopes that we can support some transformative pathway changes. And in fact, we did see many of our students that were in the grade 9 locally developed English class move into grade 9D streamed this academic school year. So that was a great success. We also looked into last year, we supported cross-panel collaboration. And what cross-panel is bringing together our grade 8 and our grade 9 teachers specifically and really zero in on what we can do to help support that important transition process from a language perspective from grade 8 through grade 9. And so these cross-panel sessions focused on really leveraging universal design for learning, which was a ministry priority last year, and aligning it with the shift in writing and supporting enhanced writing with our students between grade 8 and grade 9. One thing that we are focusing, and again, it's leaning into the data, is supporting the needs of some of our diverse learners and really supporting that alignment between our ESL programming with our ENL 1W programming. And so provided some professional development opportunities and had representatives from all secondary schools. We had grade 9 teachers, we had ESL teachers, and it was a really fantastic opportunity to learn from one another in order to support our students. And then finally, just to wrap up our presentation here, it is really, we work very hard in leaning in and leveraging continued classroom support, continue listening to understand our educators and supporting professional development about the resources in our secondary classrooms here. And then looking into with our professional development days last year, our ministry priorities were around curriculum planning, implementation, assessment, and evaluation. And we made sure to, engage with our innovation team and ensure that we included generative AI PD work into our professional development opportunities for our teachers. And that wraps up our language report. And we thank you for your time and open the floor to questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Stanley?
For the presentation. I was wondering, in the interest of ensuring that our faith permeates, again, every aspect of what we do here, returning to those book club books, are any of them Christian books, Catholic books, or have Christian or Catholic authors? Can you tell me about that? There were 6 of them up on the screen. I didn't see any of them necessarily dealing with spirituality, because I think that that's really important. So could you tell me anything more about those books that we're choosing for our book club?
To answer your question, no, there isn't any that specifically explicitly mention it, but typically when we're purchasing language curriculum resources, we do it through the lens of that language curriculum. But when we look at our language curriculum, when we look at it through our student achievement chart, it's the application part of our achievement chart that brings us then to that cross-curricular learning that I was mentioning, right? So anything that we would be reading about and writing about and building our language skills within, we would then be called to apply that cross-curricularly. So that's where that cross-curricular alignment always shows up, where we would really, if we didn't attend to that, we wouldn't be attending to our policy documents, if that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I want to encourage, though, if you seek out some literature that might not, be handed to you by certain things from the province or whatever, but seek out literature by Catholic authors that deal with Christian themes, that look at spiritual learning, because I think that there's a hunger among students to have that. And, we have 6 or 7 or 8 books there. At least one of them would be, I think, appropriate for a Catholic board. So thank you.
Right. Yes. And I just wanted to piggyback on that idea too. I think that's a really important point where students would be engaging in texts like that within the religion part of the program. So it's not that we don't see it here. Just because you didn't see it here doesn't mean that they're not reading texts like that. That is showing up when we look at our growing in faith, growing in Christ, and our faith and religion expectations and programming. That's where those texts would typically sort of show up, but where the big ideas would really cross those curriculum areas. But thank you for that advice and next step.
Yeah, through you. I just wanted to add one point to that through you, Madam Chair. Just with regards to the CVO, which is Catholic Virtual Ontario, they have spent the last 3 to 4 years developing courses specifically for Catholic school boards that are full of Catholic content and resources. And many of our teachers in the English courses in the secondary, all courses in our secondary schools are adopting some of those course packs in their D2L programs. And so students are getting access to the specific Catholic curriculum. So it's been really advantageous. They have done an enormous amount of work and we're able to benefit from that work. So. Yeah.
To continue and
Yes.
expand as well.
Absolutely.
'Cause I think there continues to be a need and an opportunity to have more of that for a Catholic board.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're up to 81 courses that they have created. It's been enormous, the writing, and many of our teachers from Waterloo Catholic have actually participated in the writing of some of those provincial course packs. So
Okay, and
we'll
hopefully it'll
make
get to,
sure those
get to
keep
the
good.
students next.
Get those to the
'Cause
students, yeah.
that's who need to read it the most
Absolutely.
in our world.
Can I just quickly add something? I know we need to wrap up, but through you, Chair, we did have some conversation around the book clubs and looking at some template division, development of templates for educators to help to assist with that cross curricular with the book clubs directly with the religion content through the Growing in Faith, Growing in Christ, to kind of blend them in together to extend the content of the book club and align it with the expectations and the work that's being done specifically in religion. Kim and I have had some discussion on that template, the potential for that development to assist our educators.
Thanks, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Okay, moving now to 10.1, draft OCST resolutions review. I'm going to turn this over to Trustee Weiler, who's done a considerable amount of work to prepare those.
Through you, Chair. Thank you very much. I think I'll just start by saying none of these resolutions are sort of net new. They all contribute and add to the body of evidence that is already before the province, whether it be through our staff associations, through our professional associations. OCSTA just released their priorities to the ministry, and a number of the professional associations of our staff have also done the same. And so in submitting resolutions, many of them will come before OCSTA, again, to help inform their priorities, but more to add to the body of evidence in terms of where our needs are and the identified needs of Waterloo Catholic. So I invited, as you know, we chose not to do a board committee. People wanted to have the opportunity to think if they wanted to submit any and submit them as they were interested in doing. But the ones that I put together, I'll just highlight them, and I'll certainly entertain any feedback. The idea is that at our board meeting at the end of January, there would be a motion to basically send each of them as part of the OCSDA submission from Waterloo Catholic. The first one is today our graduate coach funding is temporary. It's not in core funding. And this funding is to help at-risk students successfully complete secondary school. And it has, first of all, it was like a 2-year funding, and then it got renewed, but it isn't permanent yet. And so the ask here is that it get submitted into core funding rather than these sort of renewals or not knowing whether the funding is going to be there in next year's budget. So that's the first one. I'll maybe entertain any questions.
Okay. Yeah, I was just comparing this to another one actually about the spec ed, and there you're referring to REP. Are graduation coaches covered under REP right now? Is that the funding bucket that they fall in?
I'll defer to it. Sheish on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know sometimes I talk too much, but this time I was waiting for that opportunity. We do have a graduation coach funding for that, which is over 2 years. It comes in through REP and it does expire. And Boy, that was a while ago when we spoke about this, but I'm not sure if it's renewable or not. I may defer to my honorable director there. She may know more about it.
So we would be required now to apply for another year. So we had the graduation coach for the 2 years, and they did, this is the third year now.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
renewed for
so
1
it
year.
was renewed for 1 year. So the ask now is that instead of having to go through the process to renew annually, the ask would be if it could be put into core funding so that we would be, have that renewal automatically. It could be more of a permanent placement.
So I guess my suggestion is possibly mentioning that it's just part of REP right now as one of the whereas clauses.
Absolutely.
Is there any other feedback or comments? Okay. Trustee Cuff?
So I'm not sure how to phrase it, but I see this graduation coach, that it's more of an, not really expanded duties, but it's more, it focuses on the at-risk students, which is basically where a graduation coach would do the best in our board. So I'm not sure how to highlight the difference between right now it's simply for a certain ethnicity versus where we're asking for funding for a graduation coach for at-risk youth.
So this is actually the application for graduation coach for Black students. That is the only program that exists with the ministry. And so that is the one that they offer to us for this specific role. So this is an actual expansion of that existing role. If they offer graduation coaches, I know what you're saying, like in general, we would be certainly interested in that because it is support for all students. Like there could be a role there, but we have other avenues to help support students. Oftentimes with our Black students, in particular, this role was created because they are often not going to guidance or going to get the support they need. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable. They've expressed that through our graduation coach currently. He has many stories just around students that didn't think to go to guidance when they needed assistance, right? But felt comfortable going to the coach and asking for support on pathways, programming, and things to help support them in the future. And that is because of the developing the culture, the relationship, the affinity group, the opportunity for them to be together and feel part of the school community. And so being able to kind of bridge the gap with the teachers and with the guidance counselors. So that is the ask.
So through you, Chair, I left it broad as at risk because I think if it goes into core funding, I think that leaving it at risk then speaks to for all students. Where the ministry chooses to continue to fund us is up to them, but I have left it broad in terms of the ask intentionally.
Okay, not seeing any other feedback or comments on this one, so we could probably move on.
I would like to add a comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee
Thank
Phillips.
through the chair. Thank you. I have to say that I agree with Trustee Weiler. I think leaving it broad is much better and it's more inclusive of everyone because having it just for one ethnicity versus for anyone who's at risk, I think the wording is great, just at risk, because any ethnicity, any culture, gender can have issues with graduating or might need coaching or help. And I think it's worded great the way it is.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the second one. This is one that supports our math request for math special assignment teachers as result of student success and achievement. So you may know from the literacy information that was shared today, the ministry has really demonstrated the value of specific instructional support through funding of the literacy special assignment teachers. who are different than the literacy coaches, and they work directly in classrooms alongside students to do the tier 1 and tier 2 interventions. And so what this ask is to have math special assignment teachers that would increase the support available for students along with the math consultants. And so the ask is that with the math special assignment teachers working directly with classroom teachers, they would hopefully get that increased support and guidance examples that is needed in mathematics. We also wanted to highlight, with the growth across many school boards, there are many more students that need these types of interventions. And so we're asking the ministry to support the mathematics stream, as they have done with the literacy team stream with those special assignment teachers.
Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Not seeing anything.
Moving on to the next one. This is one that is more focused on things that are taking money away from directly supporting students in the classroom. So currently, the province provides a 2% increase each year to offset expenses. And as you know, our inflation rate has exceeded 2% every year since 2020. And in some of the sort of areas that Shaish oversees, as an example, whether it be electricity, et cetera, they are rising for much more than 2%. Payroll taxes, including CPP, have increased with no adjustments by the province to account for those increases. So the issue there is those are decisions made at the federal level, but when those change, the province has not adjusted the increases in the provincial funding that they give. And so essentially, we have to absorb those unfunded costs in administration, corporate services, and it takes money out of the classroom. So we are asking them that in terms of the changes that have been made in payroll taxes, inflation, et cetera, that they essentially adjust so that we are not absorbing those costs and taking dollars out of the classroom, essentially, is the resolution there. This is one that the Association of Business Professionals also put in, and Shaish identified is certainly a pressure for our board that is impacting the resources that we have available for education.
Are there any questions from trustees on this one? I have a question on the actual be it resolved. I'm wondering whether are we a little too specific in there, or because the whereases talk about a number of issues, which I definitely see. Because in the resolution, you're only talking about the payroll tax increase. I don't know. It's just wondering if it's a little too specific, or is number 2 meant to encompass the rest of them?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I see it could possibly be broader, although I think the payroll, those are probably the key pressures, but maybe I can lean into Superintendent Maharaj to speak to those specific pressures.
Sure. So, Madam Chair, the first one is definitely related to payroll taxes. Second one is just everything else. And I didn't want to start naming them because I was worried that I would leave something off that would be critical. So just non-personnel is just everything else, if that's okay.
So from your perspective, it's sufficient the way it's worded. Not seeing any other questions, we could move on to the next one.
This one essentially supports technology for students. We were able to take advantage of some of the pandemic funding that enabled our school board, but many school boards, to kind of give devices to out to students. There was a body of funding there. Those devices are coming to the end of their natural technology life, their useful life. And what the schools are finding is that students and families, with the increased costs of living these days, they're now relying on technology that is provided by the school for students to complete their schoolwork. And the funding model has not changed to reflect our current students' needs. And obviously, the increases of cost of technology continue to increase. So the resolution is that the ministry actually set out standards for classroom technology for all school boards and provide funding to school boards that provides that formula that would allow funding to roll as the useful life of devices essentially is done. But more importantly is to kind of build into the funding that average student device cost.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments from trustees? Okay, not seeing any. Okay. We could move on then, Tracy.
This is, again, where we have been very appreciative of the REP program that the Ministry of Education has provided for 5 years in terms of summer learning for students specifically with spec ed needs. And it has allowed really intentional, focused programming for our most vulnerable learners in that summer period. It also has gone a long way to supporting those students in terms of their transition to high school. And it allows us to hire spec ed staff that allows us to really build in registration for students that do have IEP plans. One of the things that we're asking, much like a previous motion, is that instead of this being an REP, to move it into the core education fund for special education. And of course, our board has really been able to demonstrate measurable gains in this particular area.
Are there questions, comments from trustees? Trustee Sikora?
One comment, one suggestion. Through spec ed, the chairs are sending a similar request to the ministry, by the way. And just the last whereas clause, I would suggest maybe splitting it into two. Just a suggestion, your choice.
Okay, any other comments, questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none. Can move on to the next then.
You will have been invited over the last couple of years to the Project Search graduation that falls under Superintendent Foran's area. And of course, that transition to work program is a really great initiative between our school boards, industry, and other community organization that really supports our students with intellectual or developmental disabilities. It's a one-year preparation program. You may recall that we rolled it out in Cambridge this past year, and we've had it in Kitchener for a number of years. But this is another one of our programs that doesn't have stable funding for staffing. And so the resolution here is that we would like the Ministry of Education to provide dedicated funding to staff each of the project search programs with a classroom teacher and a job skills trainer or EA to make sure that not only do we have a sustainable program, but really equitable access to employment preparation for these students.
Are there questions or comments from trustees? Okay, not seeing any. Okay.
The next one I'm going to pass over to Trustee Doherty Masters, who did the work behind preparing this resolution.
Yes, thank you. I worked with Superintendent Foran just to highlight the importance of the permanent core funding for the Special Education Needs Transition Navigator. The whereas clauses give some background as to the importance. And even though it's been just a short period of time, we've seen through the Director's Weekly Update that there's been quite a number of successful stories. And looking to have permanent funding in order to support it moving forward. And Superintendent Foran did supply me with the letter that SEAC had written as a support as well. And I took some information from that in order to incorporate it into the whereas statements.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from trustees? Okay. Not seeing any. Okay, thank you very much.
I think there's one more back to me, I believe, on the short-term staffing pressures. So very quickly, this one is when there is teachers away, we obviously have to replace the staff. And obviously, our board is making use of absence management programs to contain the costs. But they do have the parameters that are contained within centrally negotiated sick leave programs. And so school boards, as you probably know, spend hundreds of millions of dollars in excess of the funding provided currently for absenteeism each year. And again, when we have to fund additional staff for the school classrooms, it limits our spending again on programs and services. So we believe the Ministry of Education needs to provide some interim funding to help offset the disproportionate costs of short-term coverage, making sure that school boards are not forced to maintain classroom continuity at the expense of other critical supports and essential services. The problem is bigger than this resolution, to be very honest. But what we're hoping is that as the Ministry of Education hears, as they do from all boards around this pressure, at least in the interim, we could have some support to offset those costs so that it's not being taken out of the classroom, because it is absolutely millions across the board that is taken out of the classroom because it's underfunded, it's not funded, the replacement.
Are there questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Stanley?
Just wanted to make a final comment to thank Trustee Weiler and Trustee Doherty Masters and Trustee Phillips for the time they put into drafting up this impressive list of resolutions. Also, on behalf of SEAC, as much as I can speak for them, I think we appreciate the emphasis on special education. There's quite a lot of that here, which is fantastic to see. I hope that OCSTA survives in some form into the fall to be able to actually advocate for this if they do pass. But hopefully we'll see what happens there. But thank you again for the work you put in.
Thank you for your comments, Trustee Stanley.
Okay. Thank you very much. Again, Trustee Weiler, for this considerable amount of work. And I think with that, we will bid adieu to the superintendents for this evening. We'll move into our linkages and pastoral. If I could ask for us to come back here in 20 minutes, back in this room, if that works. Should we do 15 then, or 10? What does the group think? Bob, what do you think? 10's fine? Okay, 10, let's change it to 10 then. 10 minutes. Trustee Phillips, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Let us resume our meeting. If I could ask for a brief summary we'll start with pastoral.
Thank you, Chair. We were doing some brainstorming on putting together an opportunity for the trustees to do a group volunteering or charitable event between now and the end of this school year, most likely in May. So we've got a couple of ideas percolating, but we're open to if anyone else that was on linkages that has a great idea for a community event, please share it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm moving to linkages.
Just for those who aren't aware, we have sent out a congratulatory welcome letter to our new bishop from joint letter from the director and the chair. Just highlighted some of the recent activities that trustees may have been able to attend. Some Christmas pageant, 2 events at Monsignor Doyle, the mass and lunch at the CEC over the holidays. The Oxta seminar coming up, community leaders breakfast, that's going to be scheduled for May 4th. And that's, oh yes, and the chair, director, and our student trustees are invited to the, I guess, the inauguration, the installment of our new bishop. So hopefully they'll be able to attend. That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Hi, Renee. Can I add a comment?
Steve Phillips, go ahead.
Okay, I know that Trustee Guerin was asking about suggestions. I just wanted to throw in there because there wasn't an opportunity. Maybe for volunteering to spend time at a seniors home. I think that would be a wonderful opportunity. At my daughter's school, they did something like that for the older grades because the Christmas concert was canceled, and it was actually a wonderful sight to see them spend time with the elderly, and it brought so much joy to them. So I just thought that might be something that would be wonderful to do.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving along. OCSTA communications, the link is provided in the package. Not going to say anything too much about that. We do have the upcoming trustee conference this coming weekend. We'll move to the trustee work plan. And for that, it's on the screen for you for January. So we just talked about the OCSD resolutions. We will be approving those in the January 26th meeting. And then you can see all of the other activities that are coming up. We've got student elections coming up in the next little bit. You can see our board policies coming up for review in the next little bit. I'm not going to read through all of these. Are there any questions or comments? No. Okay. Yeah, this is continuing the review. So just know if there's any. Oh, do we want that on there still? Trustee Sikora, all trustees to update linkages spreadsheet. Are we doing that or?
No, we've decided to abandon that. So that can be removed.
Working on a list, like just to kind of capture common events so that we have just a general record. Okay. All right, so I think we're on track with everything that I saw here so far. We can move then, Stephanie, if you could, to pull up the work of the board. So this is something that's required as part of our board policy number 2003 board job description. So we kind of list out the things that we're working on and where we're at with them. So this is sort of a mid-year checkpoint. So this was included in your package, and we briefly discussed this in the fall just to kind of outline our priorities. It's a little challenging to completely change our priorities at this point in time, especially when we don't know what's happening with the trustee role. So tried to do our best to just kind of outline what we have accomplished. So, you know, our continuous education. So, you know, the meeting procedures meeting that we had, OCA STA events that we've attended. So the regional seminar and then the upcoming OCSTA seminar, moving to priority 2. Yeah, we talked today about the OCSDA resolutions, and as I said, they'll be up for approval at our next board meeting. And then I think there's a list of events that we attended under the next priority. If you could scroll up a little bit. Yeah. And then under the priority 4, just listing out our governance meetings that are ongoing. Reviewing our policies is underway, then we're reviewing those as they come up in our board meetings. And yeah, the governance committee bringing forward recommendations, we're doing those things. So I'd say we're on track with our goals. Are there any questions or from trustees? No. Okay, great. Moving along then. Upcoming meetings and events. We talked already about a number of these. The OCSTA event, upcoming board meeting on the 26th, SEAC Committee of the Whole meetings. Moving to item 14, items for the next meeting agenda. You can see them listed in your package there. We've got quite a lengthy meeting coming up on January 26th. And with that, I will move to item 15.1, confirm decisions made tonight.
It was moved by trustee Stanley and seconded by trustee Guerin that the agenda for Monday, January 12th, 2026 be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Francis and seconded by trustee Sikora that the consent agenda, Board of Trustees, and the recommendations contained therein be now approved, carried by consensus.
Okay, thank you. Moving to our closing prayer. O risen Lord, you have entrusted us with the responsibility to help form a new generation of disciples and apostles through the gift of our Catholic schools. As disciples of Christ, may we educate and nurture hope in all learners to realize their full potential to transform God's world. May our Catholic schools truly be at the heart of the community, fostering success for each by providing a place for all. May we and all whom we lead be discerning believers formed in the Catholic faith community, effective communicators, reflective and creative thinkers, self-directed, responsible lifelong learners, collaborative contributors, caring family members, and responsible citizens. Grant us the wisdom of your Spirit so that we might always be faithful to our responsibilities. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay, and now I need a motion to adjourn. Trustee Sikora and trustee Stanley. We have consensus. Okay, thank you very much.